Indeed, yeah.
We're faced with a lot of technical issues, but it's over now.
Okay.
So at this moment, we'll just continue with the session, and at this point, I would hand you over to the legal team
Okay.
for them to continue. Legal, all over to you now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Welcome back, Mr. Mayo.
Thank you.
I'm reminding you that you're still on the oath.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can continue from where we stopped before the break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so right before we went on break, we were talking about the orders from the High Court.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have it open now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I don't know whether during the break you were able to go through the order or not.
Yes, I was able to
Okay,
peruse
great.
it.
So from the order, you can see that there were different departments, or I'll say a couple of departments that were identified within the government and the assets of the former president. In different
Can we can sorry? Can we be precise or to read which of the orders? I think there are two
the
orders,
first
right?
one, MOJ 5A,
Okay.
we will deal with that one first, since that was the first one obtained by the AG.
Yes.
Yes. So from that first order, you can see that there are a couple of government departments that were, or institutions that were identified, and different classes of assets were placed in their custody. One being the Registrar General's Department and the Department of Parks and Wildlife and the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency.
Yes.
Yes. So before we went on break, you mentioned that in the preparations for this application, in the discussions, you were part of it to some
Yes, indeed.
extent. So in the identification of these departments and institutions, were you part of the team or the individuals that met and decided to include them in the application?
I cannot remember the precise details of, I mean, uh, those meetings, but I know certainly, I mean, that it was very much in line with the thinking to make sure that the relevant departments or agencies were assigned the different roles. Yes, I remember that.
Okay. And what was the rationale in having, I mean, for the wildlife, it does make sense to have the Department of Parks and Wildlife
Mm-hmm.
and for livestock, but for the Registrar General,
Mm-hmm.
what was the rationale for having the Registrar General be the one to have custody and control of movable and immovable assets?
Well, I mean, I cannot remember exactly what the rationale would have been, except that, I mean, the Registrar General, as you may know, I mean, is the custodian of landed properties or leased properties, I mean, the land registry at the ministry. And so clearly, I mean, he already has a role, I mean, keeping custody of such records. I mean, so I guess within the ministry, I mean, he was considered the appropriate person, I mean, to be able to, I mean, continue, I mean, that role of, you know, keeping custody of, especially the landed properties that were, I think most of the, I mean, the assets were actually landed properties, basically.
Actually, from the reports and documents received from MOJ and gathered by the Commission of Inquiry, the number of vehicles and tractors and stuff like that, just assets in that category, are as are actually more than the landed properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I mean, I cannot put a finger on exactly, I mean, why, I mean, the Registrar General, like I said, was identified, but I mean, from my recollection, since he was already operating a registry, I think it was felt that he was best placed to be able to, take care of, the uh, assets which have been identified pending for the directives of the court.
All right. And in MOJ 5A as well, you would see that the High Court also appointed a receiver
Mm-hmm.
for the companies.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the receiver duration of work under that appointment lasted for a period of 2 years, from May 2017 to June 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And during the course of this period, in which the appointed receiver, Augustus Crum, was managing these assets, did you have any interactions with them?
Um, well, I know that when they began, or even before they began, the exercise, there was an initial meeting. Certainly, with the representatives of Augustus Prom, where they were identified to actually be the receiver. And so on the preparatory meetings, yes, I had interactions with them with regards to how to take over, the management of those companies. And of course, they would provide briefings in the course of, the time that they were receivers. And in some of those briefings, I was present at the office of the Attorney General when they would brief about their activities, especially as it related to Abuko, what do you call it? The abattoir. Yeah, the abattoir. I know they did a lot of work at the abattoir. I think that was probably their most challenging task. Because there were already a lot of employees who were actively, working, and so they had to take them on board. The abattoir was, I think, in a very sorry state. I remember them having to, get some contractors to bring it, to standard. Yes, so they provided updates, and in some of those meetings, I was actually present when they were providing updates on the work that they were doing. Yeah.
Were you the focal person for when they had to meet with the age or had documents to submit? Because we've learned from their testimony that they would prepare occasional reports, periodic reports rather, that they would submit to the High Court, but also submit to the Ministry of Justice.
Yes, like I stated in the beginning, the director of civil litigation and his team, were specifically assigned to actually, deal with, the whole asset application, freezing application, as well as subsequent developments. So I think they were directly in touch with them when it came to receiving documents from them and writing correspondence. So the director of civil litigation would have been, the direct contact. But obviously, as Solicitor General, he would brief me, and occasionally, like I said, Augustus from senior and junior, would come to the office and provide briefings. But in terms of their direct contact, I believe it was the director of civil litigation who handled, the communications and updates.
All right, very well. Let's move on from now that the first order has been obtained. 22nd May 2017, the High Court delivered its order and has placed now the control and custody of these assets in the hands of the various departments within the government and but also the companies for the registrar. There was an implementation meeting, or basically there was a meeting at the Ministry of Justice where the implementation of the order or execution of the order was discussed, correct?
Yes, I believe, yes, there was indeed a meeting to coordinate how the order would be implemented.
Were you part of that meeting?
I recall, yes, a meeting, where we had to assign tasks. Yes, I think, yes, I should have been, yeah.
Okay. And who do you recall who else was in that meeting?
Well, of course, the Registrar General was present, Augustus Prom, was present. Of course, I believe the Director of Civil Litigation would have been present as well. I mean, I cannot recall really, the names or the precise representatives of the different agencies that would have been present. Definitely, I cannot recall that at all. But I just remember, there was indeed a meeting. Whereby security arrangements were discussed and how to make sure that we moved fast before the assets could be dissipated. But in terms of the precise representations, I definitely will not be able to recall that.
Sorry, so main point of discussion was for the coordination of the implementation of the order.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so what was expected of the Registrar General when during this coordination meeting? What were his instructions? Now that the assets have been placed in his custody by the High Court.
I think basically it was to identify these assets, where they were, the location of the assets, and the state in which they were, whether they were occupied and who occupied it, basically, and to just make sure that, he had an overview of everything that was placed under his control. When it came to the livestock, to liaise with the military, whose officers or personnel were stationed in the places where the livestock were. I think this was in Yundum or Farato and Kanilai. To basically get them to cooperate in terms of ensuring that they know there is a court order which has frozen these assets, to basically respect the terms of the order, not to make sure that it was not dissipated. So basically, it was just to ensure, that everybody who needed to know, knew about the order in order to achieve its stated objective.
All right. So does that also include taking an inventory or keeping a record of the things or the assets he would find? For example, if he goes to Canila, he's going to find, of course, vehicles, livestock, other forms, other assets. So does his work also include taking an inventory of the things that he would find?
I believe when it came to the landed properties, the list was already provided. So it was just to make sure that, all the landed assets that have been identified, that have been listed, are properly identified. And I would imagine as well, vehicles or movables that have also not been specifically identified in the order, that there would have been a list of such properties as well, as I said, when they're all there identified.
Yeah. So, but my question is, was his instruct for movable assets?
Mm-hmm.
Did his instructions include taking an inventory? that he would eventually submit to the ministry either through the Solicitor General or be submitted directly to the AG?
To be fair, I do not recall, I mean, specific instructions given that you should actually, I mean, provide an inventory or a list. I mean, so that is why I said I would expect that, I mean, a list would have been provided, I mean, prepared pursuant to, I mean, the identifications that have been made over the course of the period. But I do not recall certainly specific instruction being given that you should prepare an inventory.
Okay. But to the best of your knowledge, do you know whether inventories were prepared?
Subsequently, yes, I do recall, I mean, that a list of assets, I mean, that were identified was actually prepared. I do not recall the precise details because, like I said, I mean, when it came to day-to-day, I mean, operations of the asset identification exercise as well as the whole, I mean, asset management exercise. I mean, that was actually delegated to the Office of the Director of Civil, I mean, Litigation, of course, together with working with the Registrar General. But I certainly know that some list was prepared, but I do not recall the precise contents.
All right, that's fine. You mentioned earlier that the land had already been identified.
Yeah, as per the order.
As per the order,
Mm.
of course, subsequently, after the commission's work, we did learn that there were more properties that the commission found or discovered. But for the land that was already identified through the register that is in the custody of the Registrar General as part of the High Court order, you did mention that the Registrar General should have or was tasked to visit and identify to see whether there are any occupants in any of these properties.
Mhm.
Was this? Do you know whether this was done?
Yes, I know that. I mean, one of the major tasks that was carried out was to basically go around to, I mean, most of these properties from Banjul to the Combos and basically uh, s- eventually serve eviction notices to persons who, I mean, occupied these properties. And basically, yes, so I know that a lot of work was done in that regard.
All right, very well. And were written records of these visits submitted?
Written records of the visits.
Yes, so the outcome of the visits. For example, let's say properties in Banjo, right? Let's say there are about 20 properties in Banjo, and after the visits in Banjo, of course, ordinarily we would expect that a record, a list of these properties would be prepared to state where what happened at each location. So are there occupants in, let's say, Picton? Are there occupants or tenants in Dobson? Something like that. Were these something was something like that ever prepared and submitted?
Yes, I recall a series of memos, actually, I mean, prepared by the former Registrar General. I mean, updating, I mean, the Attorney General and myself, obviously, on, I mean, the developments, that is including visits and, what they found. So, yes, there were a series of memos that I recall, I mean, being written by the former Registrar General on the activities that was being carried out by him over the time.
Okay, and ordinarily memos prepared at that time should still be with the Ministry of Justice, the Records Office.
Yes, I mean, I believe there was a file specifically called a memo file. So there should those should have been they should be in the memo file, I believe.
Is the memo file for a specific department, or does every department have? Does every department have a memo file, or there was just one general memo file?
Yeah, generally when you hear of memos at the Ministry of Justice. There are memos from staff to either the Solicitor General or the Attorney General. I mean, mostly these memos were, addressed to, from any department that is. And so, these memos represented correspondence from all departments addressed to either the Solicitor General or the Attorney General.
All right, thank you. You mentioned that in the coordination meeting, the people that you couldn't remember or representatives of different departments that you cannot recall, but can you recall whether they were whether these departments identified in the order? The Department of Parks and Wildlife, the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency, of course, the Registrar General is within the ministry, but these departments that were outside the Ministry of Justice, can you recall whether they were served with a copy of the order or they were informed about the order?
To be honest, I do not really recall. Like I said, the representation, from the different departments. One department that I definitely know was represented was the security, the police. I believe Landi Bojang, the former CMC or operations commander, or some sort of, I recall him very well because, his presence was very conspicuous. But then other departments, to be honest, I would not be able to recall, certainly.
So I'm not actually referring to the meeting exactly, but notification of the order.
Okay.
After the order was delivered by the High Court, now the AG has the order, there's work to be done. The Registrar General is expected to go out and confirm the properties listed in the order. There were also other properties that were vested in his custody and control. But also he had the Department of Parks and Wildlife who had to take custody according to the order of the livestock. The wildlife that was owned by the former president. And you also have the Gambia Livestock Marketing Agency who should have also taken custody and control of the livestock. So my question now is, were these departments or institutions informed about the order? Did they know that there was an order that is directing them to do something?
I believe their line ministries, must have been informed of the order for onward transmission, to the agencies. But like I said, in terms of the correspondence, writing of these letters, I definitely would not be able to, tell. But I do recall that the line ministries actually, were informed, about the order for onward to inform their, the agencies concerned.
And would it now surprise you to learn that there were these departments that were identified in this order, specifically the Department of Parks and Wildlife, who received information about the order or instructions that they should have taken custody and control of the wildlife?
That they did not receive it?
Yes.
Well, yeah, that will be a surprise to me. That, because as far as I recall, the line ministries were informed so that they would inform their, their agencies under them. But then whether, the ministry responsible for wildlife itself was informed, I think the records should speak to that. And if they were not informed, it could be that either their ministry was not written to, or that the ministry did not pass on the information. But what I recall was that the communication was to be done through the ministries.
Okay. And for something this important, such a subject matter, communication would from MOJ to these ministries would be in writing,
Yeah,
right?
certainly, certainly.
Okay. So therefore, we can say that the records should show that communication was done from MOJ to these land ministries.
Indeed.
Okay. That's interesting because from MOJ's submissions, we've not been able to see that. But that's
Okay.
fine. We will take that up with the AG.
Mm.
In these coordination meetings that you had for the implementation of the order, you, to the best of your knowledge, or as far as you can recall, do you know whether these departments, institutions were invited to these meetings?
I think I had earlier stated that I know that there were a lot of people. I mean, in the implementation coordination meeting. I mean, but then to recall exactly who was present from which department, apart from, like I said, I mean, the police officer, I mean, who was conspicuous through the uniform that he was wearing. I mean, it was an operational uniform. I mean, I would not be able to really, I mean, recall exactly who was present. But they should have been invited to the meeting. But there were quite a number of people.
Okay. Take a look at MOJ 5C, that is the second High Court order.
Mm-hmm. MOJ 5C.
Yes, that is the order dated Monday, the 21st day of July 2017.
Okay, it says MOJ 2 in my file name. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Uh,
The naming of the document, there must have been an error with it. But if you do look at the top of the first page,
mhm.
it's labeled MOJ 5C.
Yeah, it says MOJ 2 and then MOJ 5C.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's it. Um, if you look at the order, there are a few companies that were also identified again.
Mhm.
Um, there were also bank accounts and properties listed
Mhm.
at the back of the order.
Yeah.
Yes. So this order, by the time it was being sought for and obtained from the court, the commission was already established.
Mhm.
Yes. So what was the rationale for the second order? Couldn't the work just be handed over to the commission for their investigations and further work?
Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, the purpose of the orders was to preserve, I mean, to prevent dissipation of the assets. And of course, I'm not sure how far, I mean, at the time the commission had already started, operations. I know that it was already established. I mean, so my hunch would be, I mean, that the fastest way was to have basically obtained this order from the High Court, since the High Court had already granted an initial order. I mean, and then basically the commission can deal with the assets which have been the subject of the freezing. So in terms of the timeline, I am not sure whether the commission at the time had already, I mean, started dealing, I mean, with the matters under its purview or not. But if the order was obtained whilst the commission was on, I believe the intention was to preserve the assets so that the commission basically would have, I mean, something to deal with. Because if the assets are dissipated, clearly, I mean, the commission would not have any mandate or jurisdiction over assets which does not exist.
Very well. So we would now move to the issues regarding the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry.
Mhm.
We can see that the president issued a commission of inquiry through a legal notice number 15 of 2017.
Yes.
Have and there are various annexures or attachments to the legal notice.
Yes.
Yes, a list of landed properties, a list of companies, and a list of bank accounts with the commercial banks
Mm-hmm.
of the former president and his companies.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so in the day we are in now, we can see that there's been a commission of inquiry. I think this government can say that there are no beginners when it comes to establishing commissions of inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that in the TGA process, the transitional justice process for the Gambia, we started with the Jana Commission, then we had the TRRC, and we had the CRC for the constitution drafting as well.
Mm-hmm.
But why was this? Do you know? Can you tell this committee why this style was used, as opposed to the others that were subsequently established by the government, the legal notice and everything that it just entails, the drafting of it? I mean, I'm
Let
referring
me,
now to the not to the content, but to the establishing document.
why, which style was the commission of inquiry style?
Yes, the this one as opposed to what the TRC had, which was an act of the National Assembly.
Okay. No, I mean, I think they have different sources. I mean, uh, commissions of inquiries are established, as you may well know, under the Constitution. I mean, Section 200. And so, I mean, once a commission is being established under Section 200, this is the usual style. I mean, to do so through a legal notice. I mean, because there's already, I mean, adequate constitutional provision. I mean, for a commission of inquiry to be established by the president. When it comes to the other commissions, I mean, these are not commissions that are grounded in the Constitution in terms of specific provisions of the Constitution. If there was, I'm sure it would have been easier to also go through a legal notice. But these were, I mean, commissions that basically were part of a transitional justice process. I mean, and of course, a transitional, process of, a democratic process. So that's why they had to, be established through, a legal, instrument, act of parliament, and of course, with detailed provisions about the functions, the membership, and everything else. I mean, that standalone commission, would have. So that's the difference between the two.
All right. Now that we're talking about establishment, after the, or let's say before the legal notice was published,
Mhm.
the personnel or the top critical personnel for the commission had already been engaged in conversations and appointed. That is why their names are reflected for the commissioners. The names are reflected on their legal notice.
Correct.
But we can see that they also received their appointment letters on the same day as
Mhm.
as the legal notice was
Mhm.
published.
Yes.
And then subsequently, of course, as the commission would need support staff, would need a secretary, the appointment was done, and of course, support staff that would aid the commission and the commissioners in the execution of their duties.
Mhm.
We can see from the records that these, apart from the secretary who was appointed from the private sector,
Mhm.
most of the, or we can say all of the support staff of
Mhm.
the Commission of Inquiry were from the government departments. Some from
Mhm.
the OJ, others from the judiciary. And we have the security forces that
Mm.
helped in investigations and providing security for the commissioners.
Mm.
For the support staff of the commission,
Mhm.
assistant secretaries, accountants, those sort of that class of personnel.
Mhm.
What was the rationale for obtaining them from the public service, from the civil service?
Thank you. Well, if you look at the history of commissions of inquiry in the Gambia, which I also had the privilege of serving as counsel in one of them, the Gamtel, the Fiber Optic Commission. From '94 onwards, at least, since when I started following commissions, it's always been the case that commissions staffed, by public servants, from the secretary, sometimes to even the commissioners, and of course support staff. So in this particular situation, I think from the very beginning, there was a lot of emphasis as a policy, I mean, uh, decision to make the commission, at least the core commission members, and the secretary and the council, as independent of, the public service as possible. Of course, you would understand that this was uh, immediately after change of government, perceptions about fairness, perceptions about witch hunting, could be very high. And so it was important, for the government to make sure, that people who were inquiring into, financial, irregularities, so to speak, of the former government, of the former president especially, and of course his close associates, were seen to be people, who were not very much really close or linked, to government through public service. And so I think for the first time, you had a situation where, the commissioners and the secretary and the council, were not from the public service. But of course, the commission being, an ad hoc commission, which was supposed to last for a very short period of time, meant that it could not really wholly, consist of people from the private sector or from outside of government. So there has to be a hybrid sort of, whereby at least when it comes to support staff, for the commission, people in the public service, would be, engaged, to help, with the work of the commission. And of course, in terms of the legal support, we also saw it as an opportunity to build the capacity of the local staff, at the state council, at the ministry, to learn under the, guidance and experience of the lead council. So of course, some, when, and in fact, it was on request from the, from the lead council that she needed support. Some state council were assigned to be able to really, not just support, but also to learn, on the job, so that in future they could also be able to be in a position to do so. So it was a hybrid mechanism, to make sure that the commissions, was able to function properly. Not just consist of people who were wholly outside of the public service. That's why certain public servants were asked to support.
In requesting for or having, it does make sense that, considering from the legal notice, it was envisaged that the commission would last for 3 months, which is quite ambitious, considering the volume of work that it had to do. But in taking staff or personnel for the commission within the service, did that not require that these people would take a break from the initial duties or from the duty stations and then move to the commission to support it in executing its duties?
Actually, what was envisaged, when, this support was being, organized, was that, they would go in and out as required by the exigencies of the Commission's services. So at the beginning, you would find that, for instance, for the lawyers, they would basically go in, and support. But when they have cases in court, they will go to court and do their cases. After they finish, their cases, they would basically join the commission. So the support that was envisaged was not a full-time sort of, support. It was basically to juggle between the two, like previous commissions. Have done before. So it wasn't really envisaged that they would move entirely. To the commission, which would have warranted that they would be seconded. But of course, with time, with the evolution of the commission's work, I think most of them found themselves more and more, engaged, full time for some of them, with the commission. And only come to the ministry, when they are needed for specific tasks. But like, to put it, in brief, the idea was to basically, run between the two institutions and provide the necessary support as and when needed. That's why it was done that way.
But how come the records don't show that these personnel would be expected to maintain their primary duties, but also support the commission and its duties as well? Because from the records that we have seen for requests of personnel from other departments, like the judiciary, for example, it doesn't state that they are expected to work part-time with the commission, but rather that they should report to the commission.
Mhm. Yeah, it may not have been written on paper, but like I said, this was the understanding. The understanding was that, if you are basically assigned to help with the commission, you do so, whilst juggling, with whatever other responsibilities you had. This was the envisaged strategy in order not to, lose, from, I mean, uh, their work and to basically able to also support, the cause of the commission's work.
But so, do you know whether this ever caused an issue for the commission or for these personnel's primary duty stations? Whether there was ever an instance
Yes, indeed. Like I,
where,
sorry.
where they were, whether there was ever an instance where they had issues of where to report to or where not to report.
Actually, the only time that, an issue arose, I recall, was when the lead counsel actually, felt that she wasn't getting enough from, the counsel that were assigned to her. I think because sometimes she would need their attention and she would be told that they are prosecuting a case somewhere and that they will be back. And so I think out of, the need to, have them, at the commission more full time. She actually wrote a letter, I believe, basically, requesting that, she needed, this uh, council or state council to really, be at the commission more than what they were doing at the time. So, but apart from the which was done subsequently, I think, all the council who were assigned were basically asked to, work with other state council to make sure that their cases were being prosecuted until the commission, was able to finish its work. Apart from that, I think I don't recall any other issues. With regards to staff who were, juggling.
We do have here a letter from the commission addressed to you,
Mm-hmm.
asking for confirmation of a few staff,
Mm-hmm.
namely Alhaji Babu Diouf, Sana Gassama, and Andy Seka. whether they are members of staff of the Commission of Inquiry. And
Yes.
from
Mhm.
yes, and from this also a response from you to the Commission as well,
Mhm.
confirming that they are part of the Commission but also have to maintain their duties.
Mhm.
And when the first secretary of the Commission of Inquiry testified, he did state that procurement accounts personnel were not stationed at the commission at all, and he
Mhm.
have to make requests, or sometimes he has to go, of course, write letters and stuff, make requests to MOJ to have these things facilitated.
Mhm.
Which now, if we look at it, you can see that these things did cause delays and some issues for the commission.
Mhm. Yes. Thank you. In fact, I must have, forgotten about that. Yes, indeed. Alhaji Babu Juf was the accountant of the Ministry of Justice, who was basically also, helping out with the financial transactions of the commission. And the Seka was the procurement officer of the ministry, and Sana was the coordinator, or chief driver, they called him. So, ideally, the Commission of Inquiry should have been a self-sustaining body, maybe, or a self-accounting body, whereby it would have its own accounts, whereby it would report directly, to, the accountant general and all that. But that wasn't the case. Like all commissions, it was an ad hoc arrangement whereby the commission was not a self-accounting body. And so that meant that Alaji Babu, the accountant, had to basically, run between the two institutions. Of course, Andy also, the procurement officer, if the commission needed anything, it needed to be procured, and procurement was directly linked to accounts because the money that was basically to be used for procurement of goods and services was to come from the accounts. And of course, the chief driver, Sana, also had to coordinate, the drivers at the commission, whilst at the same time keeping an eye on the drivers at the ministry because, as you would may or may not know, the commission didn't even have enough vehicles. So there was a lot of, vehicles that were plying between the commission and the ministry. For instance, when some lawyers needed to go to court and there weren't enough vehicles, the chief driver would make sure that the vehicles were available from the commission to do those runs. So clearly, I think the commission, felt that the part-time arrangement, wasn't very convenient for them. But of course, it was out of necessity because these were, based on the constraints of the setup of the commission, which needed these people to both serve the commission and the ministry. But eventually, I think they understood, and all the payments and the procurements, and of course the vehicle arrangements, were sorted out.
Okay. But now, in hindsight, or at least now that it's been a few years and we've seen what has happened with
Mm-hmm.
staff reporting between two institutions, or and the delays it has caused, the issues that would arise that would cause small problems here and there for both institutions, for both the commission but also for the ministry or even those that came from other departments. Um,
Mm-hmm.
from records, it shows that even the transcribers from the judiciary also need to sometimes run back to the judiciary. Now, in hindsight, do you think this model that was adopted back in 2017 is something that is ideal for a commission of inquiry?
Actually, I think it's more of a resourcing than the model. The model, I don't see any problem with it because it's, based on the realities of the time. But if you're talking about the ideal, ideally, certainly, a commission of inquiry should have all the resources that it needs to be able to, do everything that it requires without, the support of the Ministry of Justice. If that happens, I think that would best serve the purpose of the commission. The reality is that, first of all, commissions are not certain, and that's a problem that has to do with accountability department on their IFMIS system, and of course, our resources are not always allocated on time, and so that would mean that the commission does not have an alternative to draw on. Sometimes the work of the commission can actually come to a standstill. And so, I mean, uh, when it comes to, personnel as well, sometimes even the allowances or emoluments that are given, to, staff who are helping out, are delayed. And, all these are problems that would really cause a commission to come to a standstill if it were really, if it were not to have the required support system, that current system has. So I think it's more of resourcing. Ideally, a commission should be resourced to the extent that it would not have to rely on, support from anywhere else. And if I am to basically have the opportunity of doing so, I think that's what I would do. Yes.
Okay, so for you, you think the resource allocation is what's causing the most issues, or what caused the most issues for the commission rather than the personnel that are moving from one department to another?
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
If resources are made available, then I think the commission will be able to.
Mr. Maran, can you repeat what you said?
No, yeah, I said it's a resourcing issue. I think if the commission inquiry is well resourced, then it would be able to take care of all its needs without the need for any support system around it, as it currently happens.
And in well resourcing, that would mean to allow for the a commission of inquiry to manage its own funds through the accountant general, rather than passing through the Ministry
to be a self-accounting.
Yes.
Yeah, to be a self-accounting entity, and of course, not just self-accounting, in name, but to also give as much money as they need, as when they need it, basically.
All right, that's fine. Still on staffing issues, we would now talk about the secretary. What the second secretary, or should we say the assistant secretary? Because eventually in 2018, the secretary of the commission was relieved of his duties in June, or in July rather, and then the Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, Mr. Ramatullah Assad, was asked to report to the Commission of Inquiry as the new secretary slash assistant secretary, whichever one, but it's not clear. And from her testimony, she has informed the committee that she had requested an appointment letter, or a letter that would instructing her to report to the commission. However, that is not something that she was able to get, and what she received was what the commission received as well. She was given a copy of a letter addressed to the chair of the commission, informing the chair that Mr. Ramatullah Assad will be reporting to the commission as the secretary for the commission.
Mhm.
Were you, did Mr. Ramatulai sir ever speak to you about an appointment letter, or did you realize after her moving from the Ministry of Justice to the Commission that she was not indeed giving a letter, even for the role of the Assistant Secretary?
First of all, I definitely do not recall. Any request for a letter. For an appointment letter. And secondly, if that request was done, I believe it would have been very easy to really get an appointment letter, because I believe that when the secretary was relieved, the attorney general did get the blessing of the executive. To appoint, Mr. Ramatulai Sir, to take over, the duties of the secretary until the conclusion of the commission's work. And so I do not, the answer is that I do not recall receiving, any request for an appointment letter. No. But it should have, an appointment letter should have been issued. And I am surprised that it actually was not issued. And I believe it would have been very easy, to issue one if indeed, the request was done.
Okay, for her, she made the request to the AG and not to the office of the Solicitor General, so maybe perhaps that is why she did not get an appointment letter, but still, such a critical part um, of the commission, as the office of the secretary, I do believe that that should be well documented, and the person relieving or taking over from the first secretary should have also been given proper documentation to assume that office.
I agree with you totally. I think it must have been a serious oversight. If that was not done. But like I said, I'm sure. Writing an appointment letter. After having gotten the blessing of the executive would have been very easy. But sometimes some of these things happen. But it should have been done. I agree with you entirely.
I know we've moved from the beginning of establishment of the commission of inquiry, but this speaking on letters of appointment, it's making me go back to the letters of appointment for the commissioners. The commissioners were not given TORs according to the testimony of the chair of the commission. What they had were the letters and the legal notice. However, in the letters or the letter addressed to the chair, there's a mention of a TOR, that the TOR is attached. And now, when questioned before this committee, the chair did mention that he did not receive a TOR. And when the former Attorney General as well testified before this committee, he actually stated that there shouldn't even have been a mention of a TOR in the letter. So now, what is your reaction to these two testimonies?
My take is that I believe that when the commissioners received their letters of appointment, it was accompanied by the legal notice. Each of them was given a copy of the legal notice. And of course, if you read the legal notice, you would find that, it really encapsulates, what the commissioners, were expected to do, what you would call a POR. So that's my understanding. I definitely know that each of them was actually hand-delivered with their letter, a copy of the legal notice. And my understanding is that the TOR is contained in the legal notice. So there was no need to really, write down what is already contained in the legal notice, which they have copies of. That's my reading of the situation.
So when you were referring to a TOR in the appointment letters, you were basically referring to the legal notes. Is that
That is my understanding. Yes.
that's interesting. Prior to the second secretary being appointed,
Mm-hmm.
we can't even say she was appointed before she was asked to report to the Commission of Inquiry. Did you ever learn about any issues that the first secretary had at the commission or issues that led to his dismissal or the termination of his appointment?
Yes, I was briefed by the Attorney General. The former secretary had issues. In their working relationship with the lead counsel and the commissioners, and that he actually had a meeting. I was not present at that meeting. He had a meeting with the commissioners and the lead counsel, at which meeting, they indicated that they will not be able to work, with the former secretary. And subsequent to that, the Attorney General had engaged the secretary, then secretary to basically, put the issue to him that in the light of the breakdown of the working relationship between him and the commissioners and the lead counsel, it was better for him to resign because his position was not tenable, and that the former secretary refused, the proposal to resign, and as a result, he had to brief his boss, the president, who was the appointing authority, and a decision was made to relieve him of his appointment as secretary. That's what I know about the situation.
That's fine. Now the next issue I want us to talk about is the report, the end of the commission's work, and moment to the reports were submitted and subsequent issues that followed, the publication of the white paper, task force issues. That is what I want us to come into.
Okay.
Yes, but the first one being at the end of the commission's work and the documentation of the commission, the documents the commission in huge volumes, exhibits, submissions from different witnesses and different institutions, and other things that the commission gathered. That now it was time, and the equipment they were using, it was now time for the commission to close its doors after submitting its report to the president. These things, they were all the equipment, the documentation, they were all brought back to the Ministry of Justice, correct?
Yes.
And these documents, how did the Ministry of Justice preserve and store them?
Well, there is an archive room at the Ministry of Justice, and yeah, that's the archive room is where all documentation of previous commissions. If you go to the archive room, you would find even the documentation relating to the 94 commissions. So in the same way, the all the bundles or boxes of exhibits and statements and documents were basically stored in the archive room at the Ministry of Justice.
So if there's any documentation that anyone would ever need with regards to the Commission of Inquiry, they are at the Ministry of Justice.
It should be there, yes.
For someone that has worked at the Ministry of Justice for many years, how well is the archive kept? You did just say now that if anyone wanted to see the documents with the 94 Commission,
Mm-hmm.
it will be in the archive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as easy, or in our experience, it's not as easy to obtain documents from the archive.
Mm. Yes, I mean, the archive room is not a very, I mean, it's not a very comfortable room to walk in, to say the least. It's located at the very back of the Ministry of Justice. I mean, in fact, that's where, I mean, the Registrar General also keeps, I mean, archives of all the, I mean, landed properties, and as well as deeds registries. Yeah, so it's there. I mean, but then, like you would imagine, I mean, it's in a very, I mean, uncomfortable place, to put it mildly.
I think calling it an archive, even though that's what it's supposed to be, is making it sound nice.
Well, they call it the storeroom because
Yes,
the more
which has been leaking apparently, and the
yeah,
documents are getting destroyed.
hmm.
Yes, but so basically all these records, documentation were stored there.
Yes, I believe they should be there.
Okay. So did the Ministry of Justice ever receive digital copies of these documents, stored in perhaps hard drives or computers or laptops?
I know that the commission did submit all the volumes of its reports in electronic copy of I mean of the reports. But then I do not recall receiving or seeing an electronic copy of the exhibits. I definitely know that the reports, I mean, there was an electronic copy of the reports.
So apart from the exhibits, even the other documentations that the commission had produced in its work or eventually received from other people or other institutions, there are no digital copies of these things as far as the Ministry of Justice is concerned.
Like I said, I do not recall, I mean, seeing, I mean, any electronic records apart from, I mean, the report. It is possible. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not ruling it out, but I do not recall seeing, I mean, electronic copies apart from the report.
Were you aware that the commission did receive visitors? One set of visitors were from the Department of Treasury, from the US State Department, and another set were the forensic accountants from FTI. And
Yes, I am aware of, I mean,
okay,
yes, I am aware of their coming to Gambia.
okay. And are you also aware that the first team I mentioned um, were at the commission brought in a scanner and then scanned all the documents that the commission had, taking digital copies with them, but also giving the commission digital copies that, and said scanner was said to have been returned to the Ministry of Justice at the end of the commission's work.
No, I mean, I am not, or I was not aware of, I mean, the intricate workings of, I mean, the forensic accountants or the other group of experts from the US who came with regards to the precise work that they did or the kind of records that they kept or they retrieved from the commission. I certainly do not have much of an idea on those.
Okay, but what about the scanner being part of the equipment and just resources that the commission had that we are now being returned to the commission, to the Ministry of Justice after its work, after the commission was done with its work?
Again, to be honest, I do not recall seen any scanner.
Okay.
I mean, but then I am sure that, or I assume, let me not be sure, I assume that uh, there must have been a handing over note. I mean, detailing. I mean, what was being handed over to the I mean, to the ministry from the commission. I mean, if there was, certainly it would be able to say, I mean, whether the scanner or any other equipment was part of, I mean, what was being returned at the time.
Well, unfortunately, we've not been, as part of documents submitted, we've not seen a handing over note
Hmm.
of detailing equipment and documentation or whatever it is that the commission had in its custody back to the Ministry of Justice, aside from a few items
Mm-hmm.
that were handed over by the Secretary to you.
Okay. But then there must have been testimony that the scanner was handed over to the ministry, I believe.
Well, unfortunately, the scanner is something that we know was given to the commission, but somehow, like you, no one is able to recall properly where the scanner is exactly.
Okay.
Testimonies we received is it should have been with the Ministry of Justice. We think
Okay.
it is with the Ministry of Justice.
Okay.
However, there's a handing over note that I would want us to discuss,
Mm-hmm.
which surprisingly is dated more than a year after the commission concluded its work.
Mm-hmm.
Can you recall receiving a handing over note and some items from the former Assistant Secretary for the Commission, Mr. Ramatlai Saab?
Yes, I remember. Yes, Sir preparing, handing over, and bringing some items to the office of the Solicitor General. I mean, to account, to basically, I mean, submit it to the office. Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we will also forward this document to your email. But in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime, let me just, in order not to wait, let me just read out what is contained in the document for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's from Ramatullah Sar. It says care of OVP. It's dated 11 June 2020, addressed to Solicitor General, Ministry of Justice, Marina Parade,
Mm-hmm.
Banjo. Titled Handing Over of Ex-President Jammeh's Personal Belongings. I
Mm-hmm.
wish to hand over the following items to the Honorable Solicitor General and Legal Secretary of the
Mm-hmm.
Ministry of Justice in the presence of Mr. Ali Jab. 1.
Mm-hmm.
5 butoots, 28 pieces, and then 10 butoots, 1 piece of 10 butoots, and then
Mm-hmm.
1 piece of West African coin,
Mm-hmm.
2 gold coins, 2
Mm-hmm.
Mont Black ink, 1 gold watch,
Mm-hmm.
5 of pearls, GO7
Mm-hmm.
precious stone, 2 precious metal necklace, 1 UTG medal, 1 idol,
Mm-hmm.
a phone, ex-president's
Mm-hmm.
DVDs, hijab keys,
Mm-hmm.
sand, in
Mm-hmm.
bracket battery, gum petroleum hard
Mm-hmm.
drive. These were the items.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Mm-hmm.
handing over note is signed by, of course, Mr. Ramatlai Saab, yourself, and Mr. Ali Jalo, Registrar of Companies, as the witness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you should have
That's
received
correct.
this document by now.
Yes, I remember. I remember this handing over
You
note. Yeah.
remember, so these items, after, I mean, it's after a year, they were handed over to you. What did you do with these items when you received
Mm-hmm.
them?
I think. they were handed over, not physically to myself, but then, of course, to the office of the Solicitor General. And I directed that the items be placed in the safe that was at the office of the DPS, the Deputy Permanent Secretary. And so I believe the items would have been, would be still in the safe in the office of the DPS.
Okay, so you directed that the items be placed in the safe.
Yeah, in the office of the DPS. Yeah.
In the office of the DPS, and who, of course, the safe would have the key. Then who had the key to the safe? I said a safe would have the key, and then who had the safe to the key after the items were put into the safe?
Well, naturally, the safe was under the custody of, the DPS. And so, I believe the keys would also be under the custody of, the DPS. So I do not recall any other arrangement apart from having the items properly stored in the safe, in the office of the DPS.
Who was the DPS at the time?
In 2020?
Yes.
I would not be, I'm not sure whether, Ramatullah was still, DPS, but I would not be, unless I'm guided by the record.
All right, Mr. Ramatullah was at the office of the Vice President at the time. Yes.
Okay.
So you cannot recall who was DPS at MOJ in 2020?
In 2020, no, unless I'm guided by the record, I do not recall who replaced her as DPS in 2020.
All right, that's fine. But during your time as Solicitor General, after the handing over was done and this document was signed, do you know whether the keys to the safe was ever handed over to any other person, or was it just to be kept by the DPS?
No, I do not recall the keys being handed over to any other person. No.
And ordinarily, during your time as the SG, keys of the safe were always kept by the DPS themselves.
Well, the safe is in the office of the DPS. It's a general safe, basically, to keep valuables. And so I would want to believe it was not specifically for these items, but this was a handful of items. It was a big safe. So clearly, I want to believe that the safe would have been, the key to the safe would have been under the custody of the DPS, who in most of the safe was located.
And when did you leave the Ministry of Justice as Solicitor General?
December 2020.
In December 2020. And up to the time you left in December, you did not ever authorize the movement of these items from the safe?
No, not at all.
Not at all. But you also never directed the DPS to hand over the keys to any staff of the Ministry of Justice?
I do not recall in such direction.
You do not recall making such direction? Or directives?
No, I do not recall. No.
Okay. But is there a possibility that you could have made such a directive?
Possibility, yes. A lot of things are possible. So I would not, say it's impossible, but I do not recall such direction or directive.
All right, let's move ahead. Or should I say, let's go a little bit back to reporting again and the white paper.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, this handling was done in 2020, so that's why I'm saying we're going back. So, after
Mm-hmm.
the report was submitted to the president, the Ministry of Justice had work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
In helping the president and the government in general come
Mm-hmm.
up with the white paper. What role did
Yes.
you play in the preparation of the white paper after the report was submitted?
Well, I mean, the drafting of the white paper, as you would imagine, I mean, the number of volumes of of the commission's work, which involve basically, I mean, going through all those volumes and drafting a report. I mean, or drafting a white paper. It's a collective effort to basically look into the factual findings, legal findings, as well as the recommendations of the commission, and to discuss, those findings or those recommendations, which we would basically, reference in the white paper, and to also give an opinion on, for the direction of cabinet and the president.
So, after the white paper was published, is there any
Mhm.
work that you did with regards to the activities that the government took or the government initiated after the white paper was published?
Sorry, come again. Whether there was any?
There was any work that you did in
Mhm.
relation to the commission's reports and the white paper that
Mhm.
um, so after the white paper was published,
Mhm.
the government, or should I say the president, established a cabinet task force was established.
Subcommittee.
So there was first a task force, a ministerial task force, and then a subcommittee to support the task force. But apart from being part of the technical subcommittee, is there any other
Mhm.
work that you were involved in, or any
Mm,
other activity?
unless unless I'm guided,
Okay.
basically what I recall, was basically as a member of the technical subcommittee. To basically go through, the list of landed properties that were recommended to be forfeited to the state. And of course, advise the ministerial committee, on the uses to which the government may, put these landed properties. And of course, during the, sale process as well. The sale of the landed properties that were carried out by the receiver Alpha Bari. The when the bids were received, the sealed bids. Mr. Barry insisted that for the purpose of transparency, he wanted bids to be opened in the office of the Solicitor General. And so those bids were also opened in my presence, in my office, to determine, from the sealed envelopes, who was the highest bidder for each of the properties that was put out on sale.
All right. So we will get to the bidding processes and the sale of assets, but first
Mhm.
let's stick to the technical committee,
Mhm.
committee rather.
Mhm.
Who's the chair of the technical subcommittee?
The Solicitor General, myself.
Okay. Were you supported by any other personnel from the Ministry of Justice?
Yes, the Director of Civil Litigation, was always, present. And I believe that one of the state council, was also present for the purpose of, keeping records of the recommendations as we go along. If I am not mistaken, it would have been Jara. What's her name? State Council Jara. Uh, yeah, forgotten the name. So she was basically helping to jot down because there was a lot of properties. So as the discussions were going on, she would jot down, in order to basically feed the final recommendations to the ministerial committee.
So, the technical committee, what was its role? Was it only providing support when it was requested for by the ministerial task force, or was there a specific role it had to play?
Actually, the technical subcommittee was tasked to go through the list of all the properties that were forfeited, that's the landed properties, and to basically make a recommendation to the ministerial subcommittee on the purposes or the uses to which, each of these properties may be put. So, for instance, we would look at the property in Banjul, the location of the property, the description of the property, where it is located, and decide or recommend, to the ministerial committee to say, okay, this property can be sold, or this property can be retained for use by a public office. It can be transferred to a public office, or that the property can be reserved. For instance, in the case of landed properties, in the case of empty landed properties, some recommendations were that it should be reserved, for further use, basically, in the future. So yes, so this is what we did. To go through the whole list and to try and make sense of where the properties were located, in what state they were, that to recommend the action that the ministerial subcommittee should take.
Okay. So this, can we say that you just relied on the report of the commission, or did the committee had to do visits or engage?
No, we did not do any visits. We just relied on the descriptions provided, by the commission.
Okay, and you did not also engage the perhaps individuals that supported the commission in identification of these properties?
No. We just relied on, the properties and their description somewhere. Described. I think all of them are described adequately enough for us to be able to really, yeah.
So, the properties are located across the country, and also different types or different categories. Some are leasehold properties, others are properties in the regions. Some are even islands. Yeah.
And hills.
And hills, yes. That's the one that blows my mind a little bit, the hills. But
Yes, indeed.
so what can you recall what what sort of technical committee's recommendations are with regards to the islands and the hills, things like that?
I think most of those, the farmlands, there are a lot of farmlands as well. If I recall right, the recommendations relating to, such open places, basically was that it should be, it should be reserved for government use in the future. Or I'm not sure whether we had recommended to return to the community or things like that. But those that really didn't have, an ongoing value in the sense that you could sell them as such. I think it was recommended that it would be reserved for future use or return to the communities. But I would want to be guided by. There was a technical committee. The report.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether you have it. But
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do, and I would want us to get into it in detail. Because we're going to discuss about it. But what I want to do now is that I want to hand over to the members of the committee. They will ask you questions on issues that we have discussed so far.
Okay.
Yes. And at the next adjourned date, we will start with the report. By then, we would also send you a copy of the report.
Okay.
And we would discuss the report and also what was subsequently done by the ministerial task force after they receive the report. And we
Okay.
will compare what they resolved to do and
Mhm.
what was recommended by the ministerial task force. And of course, you would also, as chair of that of the subcommittee, you would guide us on the rationale for the certain recommendations that we made.
All right.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
now, Honorable Chair, I would hand over the witness to you.
Thank you, legal. Mr. Marina,
Yes, Honorable.
like she said, we have a few questions for you.
Okay.
Before I allow my honorable colleague to ask, I have two questions.
Mhm.
I want to know who would have been responsible for the appointment of a secretary
Mhm.
to the commission.
Yes, I mean, if you look at, the Commissions of Inquiry Act, you would find that, there is provision for the appointment of a secretary. And of course, it is the president who is given that power to appoint. If you look at the legal notice as well, that established the commission of inquiry, it's also provided there. That the president would appoint, the secretary. So it's the president who has the power to appoint.
So it will be proper to say that it is the responsibility of the office of the president to issue Mrs. Ramatullah Sar an appointment letter.
Well, yes. Ultimately, it's legally speaking, it is it would be the president who directs. For the appointment of the, secretary to the commission, and of course, this can be directed to, the office of the officers within the office of the president or the secretary general's office, or it could be, directed to any other office, including the office of the attorney general. To basically convey the appointment.
My second question would be, as the secretary to the commission,
Mhm.
would it not only be proper for the secretary to take oath?
Mhm.
If yes, why did Ramatullah not taking her oath?
Well, certainly, the secretary, is under, is subject to, the Oaths Act, I believe. And so clearly, if she was appointment in replacement of, the previous secretary, the correct thing would be for her to have also taken an oath as well as to get an appointment later.
Thank you. That's all from me. Now I call. Okay. And I will see they will have a few questions for this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Marina, Mr. Marina, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable. I'm not yet a doctor.
Yeah, I was recalling the other doctor, Dr. Marina, that's why.
Yes.
So quickly, I just have one question. I'm not sure where the council dealt with it, but
Mhm.
I'm a bit concerned with it. I've read your statement. I think you have your statement with you.
Yes, I have it.
Very good. On bullet point number 22,
Mhm.
I understand Alpha Capital has been appointed as the receiver
Mhm.
after the removal of Augustus Plum.
Mhm.
Now, Alpha Capital, you said in the statement that had a meeting with the Attorney General
Mhm.
for having interest to invest, or he was acting on behalf of an organization who had interest to invest in the Gambia.
Mhm.
And after that meeting, later you saw probably
Mhm.
Alpha is appointed as receiver. Now, as Solicitor General, normally, I understand the appointing authority for a receiver might be the Attorney General, but of course, will seek advice from
Mhm.
the Solicitor General, of course, who is also an advisor to the Attorney General, if I am correct.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any communication between you and the minister, and was there also any advice you gave to the minister regarding the appointment of the receiver, having known that he has a discussion with the person on something separate from what has been on the table? What is your reaction?
Maybe I will begin by clarifying, the paragraph 22. This was not a statement that basically I was writing, in the course of, alone, so to speak. It was an interview. This was, the interviewers, the people who were doing the interview asked me a question whether I am aware of a meeting that had taken place between the Attorney General and Mr. Alpha Bari, relating to, FTI. And so this was given in answer to that question, basically. So the sequencing, is basically would not follow that immediately after that meeting with, Mr. Barry and Mr. Yai. Mr. Barry, was appointed as receivers. I'm not sure whether you get my point. So these were all questions that were given, and it's only the answers. Unfortunately, the transcript doesn't capture the questions; it only captures the answers. So this meeting, to answer your question directly, this meeting that took place between, Mr. Barry and Mr. Jai and the Attorney General, I believe I was not there. But of course, the Attorney General did inform me. That FTI group, basically had visited his office. With a view to, investing in the tourism sector at the time, and of course, in the company of Mr. Barry and, Mr. Mustafa Njai. I think this must have been in 2017. So the appointment of Mr. Barry, came later, sometime in 2020. And of course, to answer your question directly, certainly, it was not based on my advice, or my advice was not sought for it, but it was in line with, the Attorney General's, quest to identify, or headhunt, qualified individuals to basically carry out assignments under the transition, program. So, no, the question, to answer your question very directly, no, my advice was not sought on the appointment of Mr. Barry.
All right, that's fine. Thank you so much. Let me hand you over. Thank you. That's clear.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Marenah.
Thank you. I see Ibrahim Ajao here.
No, Mr. Honorable Sir.
Okay. Honorable Sir. Yes.
Yes. Mr. Marenah, my first question is about the coins that were handed over to your office.
Mhm.
Were they gold coins, or what were they?
I would not be able to know exactly whether they were gold coins or gold-colored coins. But then they looked like, the butut. They basically were gold-colored. Let me put it that way. But whether they actually was gold coins, I wouldn't know basically. No.
If you look at your statement, number 6,
Mhm.
you mentioned gold coins.
Well, again, this was an interview. The interviewer asked, "Were you all gold coins?" So it was in answer to the word used by the interviewer. But to answer your question, the coins, were in the form, had a gold color, but whether they were actually gold or just gold plated, I wouldn't know.
You cannot confirm that they were gold coins.
Yeah, but they were gold plated certainly.
They were gold plated.
Yeah.
Mr. Marenah, if you come to number 3 in your statement, you made mention about information that we are giving that need further investigation. Were this done with regards to the suspected unauthorized withdrawals from the central bank and malpractice in the public enterprise like government and social security? Was there any investigation done on this?
That was the mandate of the commission. If you read the legal notice, which is part of the exhibits before the committee, you would find specifically that the commission was tasked to actually investigate these allegations, and that exactly formed the basis of the commission's investigation and subsequent report.
So you don't know whether there was any investigation of that nature?
That's what I'm saying. That's what the commission investigated. That's what the commission basically. I'm not sure whether you're referring to investigation apart from the commission's investigation.
Apart from the commission.
No, this was what the commission investigated basically. Yes, this was the commission's investigation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the ministerial committee, who was the chair? Who was the secretary? Sorry.
The ministerial committee.
Yeah, who was the secretary? The committee.
I did not attend the ministerial committee meetings, so I'm not sure. Who actually was their secretary.
For the committee that was set up by the ministerial committee, you were the secretary.
Yeah, the subcommittee, the technical subcommittee.
The technical committee.
Yes.
Was there any report from this committee that was signed by you?
I believe there was a report, which I had referred counsel to, and which she said would be the subject of our next, engagement. Yes, there was a report certainly.
Okay. And in the same statement on number 14, you made mention of two properties that were two property sales. Yes, those were exceptional cases. Mr. Marenah, who sold this property to the former president?
Well, again, let me say this was based on questions received from the interviewers. The interviewers asked the question whether I am aware of two properties which were sold at below market value. By the receiver, and I did indicate that I am aware that there were two properties which were sold. Exceptionally below the market value, because all the properties that were sold by the receiver were supposed to have been sold, above the valuation price which was set by the receiver. And my understanding from this, from the briefing received from the Attorney General, was that the ministerial committee had made exceptions in respect of those two properties. Given that those properties basically were bought by the former president, from the families concerned. I think one of the families was the Joe Doral family, and the other one was the Somposise family. And so, the ministerial committee did approve the resale of these properties back to the families at the price at which the former president bought them, from them.
Were they sold by the family or they were sold by a third party?
Sorry?
Were they sold by the family?
I believe they were sheriff sales, if I am not mistaken. They were sheriff sales, basically.
Do you know whether there were any development in those properties before the family intervened?
I think these were built properties. They were actually built properties. As far as I know, they were already built properties.
By the families?
Sorry? Yeah, at the time that they were. But that's my understanding. I would not really vouch. But I know for the Job Dollar property that is on Kairaba Avenue. I mean, you may also know the property concerned. I mean, and then of course the Somposise family. I don't know, I mean, the precise development state, but I believe they were both developed properties.
You made mention about the former or the then secretary to the commission, Mr. Kuna, that there was an issue to the extent that he was asked to resign, later on terminated. What triggered his termination?
I have already, I mean, discussed that with the late counsel. I indicated that the Attorney General did brief me that, I mean, the commissioners of the commission, Ghana Commission, and the second, I mean, the lead counsel, I mean, in a meeting that he had with them, I mean, did indicate that they would not be able to work with the secretary, and as a result, I mean, he engaged the secretary to basically, I mean, put this to him and to basically ask him to resign since there was a breakdown in the working relationship. And when the secretary refused to resign, that was when, I mean, he had to brief the president, and a decision was taken to terminate him.
But they didn't inform about the reason why they were unable to work with him. They didn't tell him about the reason.
I know that there were allegations that were made, I mean, by the former secretary, I mean, against the lead counsel, as well as some, I mean, memos that were, you know, I mean, memos that were directed to the lead, I mean, to the secretary from the commission chair relating to, I mean, the conduct of, I mean, certain sales. So yes, so it was, I think, two things. The allegations that were made against the lead counsel and the response provided by the lead counsel, as well as, I mean, some, I mean, correspondence between the commissioners and, I mean, the secretary, then secretary. Yes, that's what I understand.
Mr. Marenah, number 17 in your statement, property that identified was occupying. Do you know the outcome of that property?
No, unfortunately, I don't know what the outcome of the property is. I mean, of the property is, but I have been, I mean, made to understand. I cannot confirm that actually, I mean, the property was eventually forfeited to the state. Whether it was subsequently sold by the receiver, I'm not sure, but I am made to understand that it was actually part of those properties that was forfeited to the state.
But it was forfeited to the state?
Yes.
After the eviction?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marenah.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Marenah. That will be all from the members of the committee. And legal committee for all questions. Okay. In the absence of any follow-up, then the meeting will adjourn now until.
Sorry, Honorable Chair, for interrupting.
Okay,
So I don't have more questions for today, but the witness will come back next week after he confirms his chair.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Certainly, yes. So the meeting is adjourned until tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And once more, Mr. Marenah, thank you for answering questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable. It's my pleasure.
Meeting adjourned.
All right.